The world's oceans have long been arenas of power and dominance. And now, in one of the most tense regions of the globe, the South China Sea, a dramatic event has unfolded. A U.S. Navy submarine has surfaced right in the heart of a Chinese fleet. For years, the South China Sea has been a hotspot of territorial disputes. China claims almost the entire region under its so-called Nine-Dash Line, a claim contested by neighboring nations like the Philippines, Vietnam, and Malaysia. But the United States, too, has a vested interest in maintaining freedom of navigation in these strategic waters. Then, on an otherwise normal day, an incident shook the region to its core. A U.S. Navy submarine, stealthy and silent, suddenly surfaced within close proximity to a Chinese fleet. The world was caught off guard. But why did this happen? And what message was being sent? U.S. submarines frequently patrol the Indo-Pacific region as part of their mission to maintain strategic deterrence. Their stealth capabilities allow them to operate undetected, gathering intelligence or ensuring a robust defense posture. But surfacing like this right within a Chinese fleet is highly unusual. Was this an intentional show of strength or simply an operational necessity? Hundreds of feet below the surface of the Pacific Ocean, cocooned within one of the U.S. Navy's most technologically advanced pieces of equipment, Rear Admiral Jeff Jablon is clear-eyed about the two biggest challenges his team faces. In today's world, we are facing two nuclear peer adversaries where we've never had that before, he explains, on board the USS Mississippi, a nuclear-powered fast-attack submarine belonging to the U.S. Pacific Fleet. The Soviet Union and now Russia was our peer adversary with respect to nuclear capability. We're now facing China, which has expanded and modernized their nuclear capabilities. Earlier that day, the Virginia-class submarine had left its base at Pearl Harbor in Hawaii and slipped below the waves into the world's largest ocean on a routine mission. Throughout the vessel, some 130 sailors were at their stations, carrying out a host of well-honed tasks. In the control room, more than a dozen sailors were on duty, some looking for obstacles on sonar, others charged with navigating in the dark depths. Down in the torpedo room, technicians practiced loading weapons to ensure operational readiness at all times. Engineers manned the lower floors to ensure the water and hydraulic systems were functioning properly. As concerns over an accelerating nuclear arms race in Asia grow, one of what Jablon said are 49 fast-attack submarines in the U.S. fleet, to witness how Washington is stepping up preparations to deter a potential conflict in the region. The role these vessels play hard to spot, hard to destroy, and able to travel vast distances was given fresh impetus when earlier this month the United States, the United Kingdom, and Australia announced details of a nuclear-powered submarine deal that would see greater cooperation between the three countries to counter China's rapid military expansion. Under the so-called AUKUS deal, Australia will buy 3 Virginia-class submarines from the U.S. in the early 2030s, pending congressional approval. China has lambasted the agreement, accusing the three powers of engaging in Cold War mentality that will make the world less safe. In November, the USS Mississippi made a port visit to the Western Australian city of Perth, where it conducted training with members of the Royal Australian Navy, the U.S. Defense Department said. The U.S. and its allies have also increasingly raised alarms over China's growing military ambitions and territorial claims in the Western Pacific and the South China Sea. Beijing's ruling Communist Party has also refused to rule out the use of force in capturing Taiwan, a self-governing democracy of 23.5 million that it claims to be a part of its territory, despite having never ruled it. Despite the advances made by the Chinese military, experts say the U.S. still has a significant advantage when it comes to undersea warfare. Submarines are one area where the United States retains unchallenged superiority over China, said Carl Schuster, a retired U.S. Navy captain and former director of operations at the U.S. Pacific Command's Joint Intelligence Center in Hawaii. They are the one stealth platform with the striking power and survivability to counter the PLA Navy's surface and subsurface forces, Schuster said. The Mississippi, like all U.S. Navy submarines, is nuclear-powered, which gives it essentially an unlimited range and time to be deployed, with it only needing to make port calls for provisions for its crew. Firing nuclear-armed missiles is a mission reserved for the Navy's 14 ballistic missile submarines, larger vessels often referred to as boomers. But what the USS Mississippi is armed with is still formidable. Its class carries Tomahawk cruise missiles that can hit targets up to 1,000 miles, 1,600 kilometers, away, as well as torpedoes to strike adversaries on or below the sea. When fully loaded, it can also carry up to 25 Mark 48 torpedoes, an advanced heavyweight torpedo that can strike adversaries on or below the sea, said Edward Barry, the commanding officer of USS Mississippi. China has been massively expanding its navy in recent decades, but on nuclear-powered submarines, it remains significantly behind the U.S., something Beijing is keen to change. The numbers of China's ballistic missile submarines and nuclear-powered attack submarines, now numbering 6 of each, are projected to more than double between 2020 and 2040, according to a 2022 Congressional Research Service (CRS) report on China's naval modernization. Meanwhile, the PLA Navy is expected to maintain 44 diesel-powered, air-independent powered attack submarines, according to the U.S. military. 25 of the fleet's 49 attack subs are stationed in the Pacific, he said. But some of those subs Jablon would not provide specifics are unavailable for maintenance or other reasons, he said. Of course, China's fleet would likely face similar maintenance demands, but it need only cover 2 oceans, the Pacific and Indian, giving the PLA Navy an advantage in the total number of subs in the Indo-Pacific. Meanwhile, numbers from the U.S. Congressional Budget Office point to another potential problem for U.S. attack submarines. The fleet is expected to shrink to 46 boats by 2028 before new building programs fully kick in and bring the fleet to as many as 69 boats by 2052. China's immediate reaction was one of outrage. Officials decried the U.S.'s provocative actions, stating that the submarine's appearance was a violation of China's sovereignty. But experts suggest that the U.S.'s actions could be testing the limits of China's naval readiness, or even signaling that the U.S. isn't intimidated by China's growing military presence in the region. This isn't the first time the U.S. and China have faced off at sea. For decades, naval encounters have been part of the broader U.S.-China rivalry. The two superpowers have often tested each other's resolve in tense standoffs, but incidents like this submarine surfacing could signal a new level of boldness in their confrontation. So what does this event mean for the future? On the one hand, it raises the stakes in an already delicate region. Any miscalculation could lead to escalation. On the other hand, some analysts believe the U.S. is sending a calculated message, reminding China that the U.S. Navy still reigns supreme, even in contested waters. As tensions simmer in the South China Sea, the world is watching closely. What will happen next in this dangerous game of naval chess between the U.S. and China? Only time will tell. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more in-depth coverage of global military events and geopolitics. What do you think this submarine incident really means? Drop your thoughts in the comments below.